Sam Shamoon sent me a link to a video this morning. It's the testimony of a young man named Joseph who grew up as a Christian.
So I went to university. I grew up in the Lake District and was never knew any Muslims as a child. Grew up in an evangelical Christian home. I went to church with my family. We were in part of the youth group. My dad and mum were in the worship team at church. You know, it was kind of an idyllic childhood.
His first exposure to Islam was in college, where he had a Muslim friend.
I was put into dorms, in mixed dorms, and one of my dorm mates was a Muslim. So we used to, it was in Ramadan, and they were fasting and praying, and I was kind of fascinated about the way that they pray. You know, just the bowing and kind of reading and the language that I'd never heard.
After leaving college, Joseph got a job at a hospital. One of the doctors was a Muslim and a big fan of Zakir Naik.
So he was giving me verses in the Bible, and it's pretty much the Zakir Naik argument. You know, Deuteronomy 18:18, all these great things about Muhammad. Muhammad split the moon, and he did this, and you know, I can get into these in more detail, but I think everyone who's watching this should know the kind of Zakir Naik arguments and the convert lie. And I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. I started going to the meeting hall and started to learn the Shahada, and eventually I said the Shahada and became a Muslim.
Then he spent years going deeper and deeper into Islam.
I ended up moving to Peterborough because I had met a Muslim girl and thought the grass was greener, the Lake District is boring, there's nothing goes on there, and moved. So I ended up in Peterborough and was fully practicing my faith by this point, learning the Hadith, learning the Sunnah, and really, you know, going deep into it.
Eventually, he ran into a problem.
I eventually met a girl who is now my wife, and moved to Birmingham. And in Birmingham, some really quite dark times were ahead. I eventually fell onto David Wood's material. I eventually fell onto David Wood's material, and I had all these books that he was referring to. So it was certain things that he would point out, and he would give a reference in the days when he was doing ABN SAT, ABN SAT, with Sam Shamoon and Pastor Joseph. So he was giving references, and he knew his stuff. He really knew his stuff. So I was writing this down and constantly writing everything he said and then researching it. And I was like, whoa, this is really in here about the stuff of the sheep verses and, you know, it's the satanic verses, things in the Quran, things in the Hadith. I really thought this is some compelling argument here.
So he was watching videos from our Jesus or Muhammad days with Sam Shamoon, Pastor Joseph, and D. Wood. Those were live call-in shows where we would discuss a topic and then let Muslims call in and challenge us. If you're a fan of that format, rejoice. We're about to launch a live call-in series with me, Sam Shamoon, and Brother Rashid, so stay tuned for that. As for our young Muslim friend here, he was writing down the references we were sharing, and he had the sources so that he could check out what we were saying. He took these issues to other Muslims. Could the Muslims answer these arguments?
So I would go to the Muslim community and the mosque and say, you know, I've learned this. I wouldn't tell them where, but I'd say I've learned this. And what does this mean? And they had no answers. They had no answers at all. At all. They were telling me to stop. They were like, do you need to stop? You need to just practice, and you just need to do this. And, you know, you should stop looking at all that stuff. In fact, give us the books that you've bought. Give us them back. I wasn't giving them books back. I knew that these books, you know, I've been put in, I've been given these books for a reason, and I've kept on to them to this very day.
You may not have caught that, But Joseph obviously has a special ability, and this special ability helped him leave Islam. When he says that Muslims had no answer for the issues we were raising, what does he mean? If you interact with Muslims, you know that Muslims always claim to be able to answer objections. Muslim apologists claim that they absolutely destroy our objections easily. So why is Joseph different? Well, most Muslims seem to lack the ability to distinguish between saying something in response to an objection and actually answering the objection. If you raise an objection to Zakir Naik, he'll say something in response to your objection, but he won't actually answer the objection. He'll sound like he answered the objection, but if you're really paying attention to what he says, he hasn't come close to answering the objection. In Islam, as long as you sound like you've successfully defended Muhammad and the Quran, the vast majority of Muslims will say that you totally destroyed the objection, even if you've spouted complete nonsense. So Joseph here, fortunately, has the ability to see through the smoke and mirrors. And he's not the only one.
During my time in Birmingham, while I was with my wife, she got onto my notes and she was reading all these notes and she started on her own journey. She actually started to pick up Sahih Bukhari and, look at the things that I was writing down. So it would have something like Quran verse and, then the section about it underneath and what it really means, and then say the commentary and things like that. She started to research it, and one day I think we had this conversation of, was Muhammad really just a fake prophet? Was he a fake prophet? And we both agreed that he was. So where does that leave us? Both of us now have come to the same understanding.
Notice, husband and wife both realized that Muhammad was a false prophet. How? By finding out what's in Islam's most trusted sources. Muslims believe in a vast array of myths about their prophet and their book. Their sources are the ultimate myth busters. Sadly, most Muslims never go through those sources, and their leaders lie to them about what's in their sources. This means that if we want Muslims to be able to make an informed decision about their prophet, we have to learn what's in their sources and we have to share it with Muslims. When we do that, awesome things tend to happen.
At this time, I started to not pray like a Muslim. I actually went back to praying as a Christian and opening my arms and heart up to God, spending times in prayer, reading the Bible, and God really spoke to me. In these times, my mental health was quite bad, and I was really suffering because I was lonely in Birmingham. And something quite amazing happened. Nina, my wife, started on her journey to becoming a Christian as well. Later that summer, she was baptized in a Pentecostal church in Birmingham, and it's a day that I'll always remember and cherish. The day that me and another pastor, baptized my wife.
Now, it would be a nice, happy ending if the story concluded with Nina being baptized, but that's not the end. Nina's family gets involved. Joseph ends up homeless. He gets stabbed, shot, and run over. Pretty terrifying life for an ex-Muslim who's becoming vocal about Islam. I'm not going to fill in any more details because I'd like you to go watch the full video on Joseph's channel. It's about 17 minutes long. The link is in the description box. Be sure to pray for Joseph and Nina and their baby. If they stay the course, there will be amazing things ahead for them. But there will be persecution as well. Welcome to Christianity.